Hello. Today I'm taking a look at a Tokaji Aszu. In particular, this is Disznoko. This is a 5 Puttonyos wine from 2012 is the vintage. So the Tokaj region is in northeast Hungary. This particular property is near the town of Mad. The region is sort of in the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains and traditionally sort of spreads across the border into what was Czechoslovakia. The region specialises in producing these sweet Aszu wines, largely because the climate works for them there. They have two rivers, the Bodrog and the Tisza, at whose confluence you get a cold mountain river joining a warmer river from the plains, and as a result mists are regularly created that blanket the vineyards and promote the creation of botrytis fungus. And botrytis, what doesn't sound great, the idea of a fungus affecting the grapes that you're going to make your wine with, but what it does is if you get the right sort of botrytis fungus that doesn't destroy the grapes, you get a fungus that shrivels them. It makes the grape skin porous, allows water to evaporate and leaves you with concentrated sugars and acidity. So you get a sweet wine, but you get a sweet wine that has a lovely balancing freshness and so isn't cloying when you're drinking it. And this fact was discovered a long time ago. I mean, the first time the writing down of how to make an Aszu wine was done was back in the 1630s. So there's a long history of this, and the wines were hugely popular with the Russian Tsars used to love the Eszencia wines at the top of the quality tree there, and the vineyards tended to be owned by the nobles. I mean, Disznoko, for instance, in the 1730s is classified as a first growth, one of the top vineyards of the area, and these wines are very expensive, very much in demand. Unfortunately, during the period of communism, the vineyards are nationalized and quality falls. Disznoko was, in its current form, was founded in 1992 when the French insurance company AXA chose to invest in the area, and they built a winery, bought vineyards, etc. And this fitted really quite nicely into their portfolio of quality wines they already have. They own, for instance, Château Pichon Baron in Pauillac in Bordeaux. They own Clos in Nuit Saint-Georges in Burgundy, and they own Quinta de Noval in Port, in the Douro Valley, a port producing house. So this style of wine is it's quite particular. It involves either re-fermenting or macerating with these shriveled berries in either the must of the fermenting wine or the completed wine. It's quite particular to make. I mean, the period of harvesting of these shriveled Aszu berries, the botrytis affected berries, for this stretched from the 11th of September through to the beginning of November, and these berries are all picked individually by hand. It's incredibly hard work. And so you have the local grape varieties, Furmint and Hache-Levallois, which work really nicely together. Furmint provides acidity and freshness and shrivels very well to become an Aszu berry, whereas Hache-Levallois provides a fruity richness. This wine is a 5 Puttonyos, and that's to do with the level of sweetness. Traditionally, it was a question of how many baskets of a particular size did you add per barrel of another particular size to give a final sweetness, and so you'd have anywhere from 2 to 6 Puttonyos of these rotten grapes being added to sweeten a base wine. This particular wine is then, once the wine's been produced, it's aged in French oak barrels, French and Hungarian oak barrels, sorry, of 225 litre size for 2 years. 25% of those are new, so that should give some sort of vanilla notes to that. Just the breakdown of the grape varieties. Evidently the base wine that was made was 50-50 of Furmint and Hache-Levallois, and then the Aszu berries, the rotten berries that were picked, at 85% Furmint and 15% Hache-Levallois. So anyway, enough talk. Let's have a look at the wine. You've got, first of all, a lovely golden colour. You possibly see it better in the bottle than in the glass, but it's a fairly pale gold, but it's beyond being yellowish, and there's a lovely vibrancy to the colour. It's hugely attractive. Let's have a smell. Lovely complex aromas, and they're a combination of a number of elements there. You have honeyed notes, you have high ripeness stone fruit, sort of nectarine, juicy peach, those sort of notes there. You've got a lifted blossom note, there's a high toned note to the whole thing, and then behind that you've got a sort of an enveloping honeyed richness, and also notes of rich vanilla coming from the oak. They're not dominant, but they're there in a sort of a delicate level. So let's taste the wine. Gosh, it's a fully sweet wine. The analysis says 138 grams per litre of sugar, which would be at the very sweet end for a Sauterne. But to compare with the Sauterne, there are two things that are different. You've got a much higher level of freshness. The acidity is, I'm getting mouth-watering acidity. It's really crisp, which makes the sweetness really clean. But also it's relatively light-bodied. I mean, this only has 12% alcohol, so the alcohol's not asserting itself and rounding out the palate. The palate is quite fresh. There's almost a lemony note to it. Again, you've got those elements I was talking about with the nose. You've got that lovely, rich nectarine, ripe apricot, ripe peach, stone fruit flavours. You've got honeyed notes and the vanilla all combining there. There is still that sort of slightly lifted, high-toned note, which I was describing as sort of being blossom. Because the alcohol's not high, the finish has that lovely freshness, and that's allowing those sort of blossom notes to continue on the finish. And the flavours are lasting for a long time as well, because there's quite a good intensity here. It's not a huge wine, but it certainly has a presence. If you've not tried the sweet wines of the Tokaj region, it's well worth doing so. They really are quite lively, exciting wines to taste. They can be very complex, and they can age for decades. I mean, this is 2012. It has a reasonable amount of time in bottle already, but I think you could quite happily leave that for another 15 years if you wanted to, and it would gain some really sort of toasty, complex notes, and probably a greater depth of honeyed richness. But it's really lovely now. So yes, Tokaji Aszu. Thank you for listening, everybody. Have a good day. Bye now.